Coming to you today with a bit of breaking news. It was not that long ago that the refresh Model 3 or Project Highland was officially released for the world to see. Now, this refresh did come with a ton of new features that customers have been asking for, including things like ventilated seats and ambient lighting throughout the interior of the cab. Now, there are a number of other updates, of course, including better range and a more comfortable ride, but it leaves the question, how much longer do we have to wait for the same refresh to happen to the Model Y? We may have a partial answer to that today. Not exactly a full answer, but let's dive into the details because this one's a little bit unique. And if you come here from time to time and you have not yet subscribed, please consider doing so. We are well on our way to 100,000 subscribers and I can't thank you enough. So please consider subscribing. It costs you nothing. I would greatly appreciate it. The refresh Model 3 has been well received by consumers around the world, and it does represent what would mostly be considered a modest update to the Model 3. However, where those updates are really pack a punch. This is a minor facelift on the outside, but it's on the inside where most of the changes are happening. So for some time now, the rumor has always been that Project Juniper or the Model Y refresh was estimated to be about 6 months behind the Model 3. So the Model 3 refresh would happen first, and then something like 6 months later, we would anticipate to see the Model Y have that same level of refresh. Because of that, we have seen some Highland Model 3s here in North America testing, but we have not seen anywhere in the world actually a refresh Model Y or Project Juniper. So it's going to be some time still until we start to see prototypes of the refresh Model Y out in the wild. And until that time comes, we just have to wait until we see this thing finally released to know exactly when that's going to happen. For North American customers, it's looking like Q1 of 2024 is when we're finally going to get the refresh Model 3 here in North America. And more on that later because I think there's a really good reason of why it's not until 2024. But if it is indeed 6 months later, it would probably be Q3 of 2024 before we saw a refresh Model Y. That is at least until last night. You see, Tesla did make a bit of an update to the Model Y unexpectedly. So what Tesla did over in China is they just released an update to the Model Y. Now, this is not a complete refresh like we saw in the Model 3. It's kind of like a miniature update, so maybe like a refresh 0.5. There's quite a bit to unpack here, and although the major obvious stuff is being called out, there are some other details here that are hidden that I haven't yet seen anybody talk about. So let's head over to the computer now and take a look. So first thing first, let's take a look here at the Model Y in China, because when we get to the order page, the first thing you'll notice right off the bat are these new Gemini wheels. These wheels are now black, and I'll show you more pictures later, but the wheel underneath is also black. So this is a big update here on the exterior of the car, and I think it's a much needed update. If we look at the Gemini wheels today, pretty big difference in how these two look. So I think this is a nice upgrade. And for those of you who like to remove the covers, it'll be nice to know that there is a black wheel underneath. Now, in addition, keep cycling through. It looks like pretty much the same on the exterior otherwise. Nothing else really standing out. But here we go, zooming in here on the wheel, you can see it is black underneath. It's not silver like it has been in the past with the regular Gemini wheels. So there you have it. This is a look at the inside, and at first glance, you probably don't really see anything that pops out, but what is different is they now have this ambient light strip like we do in the Model 3 refresh, and we also have this new textile dashboard up here as well. So no more wood grain, and this is the same whether you get white interior or black interior, so even when you change that, you get the same textile material on this dashboard. Same seats, they do not appear to be cooled or anything like that. Everything else is basically the same on the inside. The only difference here is we're now getting this ambient light here, which is a multicolor ambient light. So nice little refresh there. Nice to have the updated Gemini wheels. The big thing here though is it is the same price as it was before. So $263,900. This is the same price it was just hours ago. But there are some other differences here that we should look at up here. And this is where I'm hearing less people talk about. 5.9 seconds, 0 to 100 kilometers per hour, and this was 6.9. Now, previously, this was 5.9, but it was increased a whole second to 6.9 just recently. So going back down to 5.9. In addition, the range, now keep in mind this is CLTC range, so this is a standard only China uses, and it's definitely different, but it was 545 miles previously, and it is now 554 miles. If we look over on the long range all-wheel drive, this was 660 miles of range. It's now 688 miles of range. 0 to 100 is still the same. And then over on the performance, 615 miles is still 615 miles, and it was 3.7, and it's still 3.7. So extra range actually on the long range all-wheel drive and on the rear wheel drive Tesla Model Y out of China. So a little bit of a boost, 1.7% on the rear wheel drive and 4.2% on the long range all-wheel drive. So I also wanted to look a little bit deeper, and down here at the bottom in specs, I did have to translate this, but what we can see here is if we scroll down to the weight of this vehicle, I was wondering if this weight was the same, and it's actually 2 kilograms heavier. So nothing crazy there, nothing that stands out. This isn't a major change in like a battery or something like that. This is probably wiring for the ambient lights and whatever else. So nothing really crazy there. If we look over on the long range, again, it's the same thing. It's actually the exact same thing. It is a little bit heavier, but by 2 kilograms. So this was 1979 before, now it's 1981. So it's not a weight thing, meaning the motors are the same, the battery is the same. It's still 250 kilowatt charge on the long range all-wheel drive and 170 kilowatt on the rear wheel drive. So same charging speeds there. Nothing else really stands out, but they did update some of the animations here so you can get a glimpse at some of these updates on the inside. As you can see, the ambient lights do not go to the back of the vehicle. And this next clip here is going to show you a little bit of that ambient light on the front, a little bit clearer, but you can see it there with the different colors of the interior. So that is updated there. We have a better view right here of that strip. And then from the back seat, you can see no ambient lights around here, but just a glimpse of it there on the corners. So it might be a little bit confusing on what exactly is going on and why is North America seemingly getting the shaft on these updates? Well, first and foremost, it looks like this particular update or this refresh for the Model Y, this halfway refresh for the Model Y, seems to be some sort of a halfway update for customers to keep them happy while they're waiting for Project Juniper to complete, or the full refresh of the Model Y. Perhaps as the refresh Model 3 came out, they really had a big impact on Model Y orders. That would be my best guess. As people see the Model 3 refresh come out, they've got to be asking themselves, how much longer for the Y? I want these features in the Y. I'm going to wait to order. That is probably what's happening, and this is Tesla's response in the short term. Now, the second question, why is North America getting the shaft on this? Well, I think if you read between the lines, I'm not saying this is for sure what's happening, but I think this might be what's happening. So as we know, Tesla changed some of the verbiage on their website, which talks about tax credits. And it did state that starting in 2024, some of these tax credits that are available for the Model 3 are probably going to change. And it used to be specific to Model 3, but now it's very generic and it could potentially impact some of the Model Y as well. With the refresh Model 3, there are different components in this car and they could be coming from different suppliers that are going to change the qualification of this car starting in 2024. So by holding off, they're not going to disqualify the cars that they're selling right now in North America. That is probably going to go away, or there's some sort of a risk of it going away when the refresh happens. Hence why all the talk is about Q1 of 2024 being the timeline when the refresh Model 3 arrives here in North America. And I think that's still probably a good answer for that question. And I think we're still looking at that 6 months behind on the Model Y getting the same refresh. Now, would we get a partial refresh now? That's very possible. We could be seeing a Model Y with some of these updated features in the short term. But the good news is, if you miss out on them, that's nothing crazy. If you're missing out on the big refresh, that would be something completely different. But for now, it's just an update to the wheels, update to the ambient lightings, perhaps not guaranteed, but perhaps some changes in range. So let me know in the comments, what do you think about this update? Is this some sort of a ploy to keep customers happy with the Model Y? Do you think Tesla's responding to some sort of a change in demand after the Model 3 refresh was released? I'm very interested to hear from you what you think is happening here. And if you wanted to see all the details on that refresh Model 3, be sure to check out this video up here. Thanks so much for joining today, and we'll catch you next time.